Hello and welcome to Startup Street. I'm Arundhati Ramnan, and joining me from the Delhi studio is Aishwarya Anand. These are the top headlines from the startup space. InsuranceDekho bags $150 million in Series A funding round in a mix of equity and debt. The equity round was led by Goldman Sachs Asset Management and TVS Capital Funds, with participation from InvestCore, Avatar Ventures and Leapfrog Investments. This is the largest Series A round led by an Indian insurtech startup.
PhonePe raises another $100 million in primary capital from Ribbit Capital, Tiger Global and TVS Capital Funds. This at a pre-money valuation of $12 billion. The new investment follows the recent $350 million primary fundraise that closed in January.
Prozo, a full-stack supply chain startup, backs 45 crore rupees in pre-Series B round. The round was led by 6 Sense Ventures. Jafco Asia and other marquee investors also participated. Funds raised will be used to expand its client base, warehousing and logistics network. The firm is also looking to raise a larger Series B round in FY23 to FY24.
LinkedIn is laying off employees from its recruiting team, says reports. The networking platform is targeting employees from the recruiting team, but the exact number of impacted staff remains unclear. Layoffs at LinkedIn appear to be a part of Microsoft's plan to cut about 10,000 jobs across various divisions.
Nykaa falls 5% after it reports a 71% decline in net profits in the third quarter. Profits came in at 8.1 crore rupees versus 28 crore rupees last year. EBITDA increased 13.5% to a little over 78.2 crore rupees versus the 68.9 crore rupees in the same period last fiscal.
US firm Epic Games is challenging Google in an Indian tribunal for not complying with some portions of an antitrust directive. Epic claims that Google has not complied with a part of the CCI directive that it should host third-party app stores on Play Store and allow apps to be downloaded freely without using Play Store, says Reuters.
Walmart will close 3 of its US technology hubs, asking hundreds of workers to relocate to keep their jobs, says Reuters. Nearly all technology employees across the company would be expected to work in their offices for at least 2 days a week, added Robert Monroe, Walmart's Director of Global Communications.
Cloud communications company Twilio is eliminating 17% of its roles and closing some offices as part of a restructuring effort to focus on profitability. As part of the restructuring, Twilio will also divide operations into units, Twilio Data and Applications and Twilio Communications, according to a blog post. Now, on what's brewing, FinTech Decacon PhonePe has raised another $100 million as part of its ongoing larger funding round from Tiger Global, Ribbit Capital and TVS Capital. The company is valued at $12 billion. Now, this investment comes just weeks after PhonePe raised a $350 million primary capital infusion from General Atlantic that made it India's most valued fintech startup, ranking above Swiggy, Polygon, Oyo, Dream11, Razorpay and Ola. With this second tranche, PhonePe has already raised $450 million. It now targets to raise up to $1 billion in this round. The company it is also worth noticing that this is the first investment Tiger Global has made this year. The fresh capital will be used to scale up its payment and insurance business in India, as well as to launch and aggressively scale new businesses over the next few years. The startup plans to go public once the core business turns profitable, which the firm hopes to achieve by 2023.
Meanwhile, a report by VC firm Aureos Venture Partners has found that over 25% of unicorns in India have been founded by serial entrepreneurs, that is, entrepreneurs who have already set up successful businesses before. The Indian Unicorns and Exits Tech Report 2022 by Aureos suggests that India has become the third nation to have 100 unicorns and that 1 out of every 13 unicorns globally is born in India. The SaaS industry delivered the most number of unicorns in 2022, followed by fintech, logistics and edtech in terms of funding. The report said that startups raised $25 billion in 2022, over twice as much as they did in 2020, but saw a 30% dip compared to 2021. The number of startup IPOs also fell to 4 in 2022 from what we saw 11 in 2021.
Now, in another startup news, Nykaa slipped 5% after it reported a dip in profitability in the third quarter. The firm saw a 71% decline in net profits, which came in at 8.5 crore rupees versus 29 crore rupees last year. However, revenue surged 33% on a yearly basis to come in at over 1.46 crore rupees. Mangala Malu is standing by with what brokerages make of the stock. Mangala?
But as far as Nykaa is concerned, the revenue growth of the company was pretty much in line with what the street was anticipating. However, it was the composition of the revenue growth and its resultant impact on the margins that has the street and the brokerages worried. If you just take a look at what Goldman Sachs has said, they've said that they've been positively surprised by the acceleration in their fashion business, which grew at around 50-odd%. But the BPC segment, beauty and personal care, which is the core of the business, grew just 26%, and that was a negative surprise. However, they have a neutral rating on the stock with a target of 200 rupees per share. Another company which has 200 rupees per share as the target on Nykaa is Jeffries, which has a buy rating, and they say that the gross merchandise value growth was led by fashion and others on a low base. Other segment actually grew over 250-odd%, and the BPC, or beauty and personal care, grew 25%, largely due to a high base and shift in the festive season. At the same time, was impacted a little by the weak demand. Overall, the gross margins of the company were below expectations because of inferior mix, the discounting that the company had done, and because of weak demand environment, some down trading that took place by customers as well. As the company continues its investments in B2B offline expansion and own labels, this is something that they will watch out for. And finally, we have Nuvama, the erstwhile Edelweiss, has cut the target price from 251 to 195 because of lower EBITDA expectations. So they've lowered their EBITDA expectations by about 8% for this year. But importantly, in their model, they've upped the cost of capital assumption as well, as a result of which the discounting factor has increased, and that has led to a lower target price for them.
All right, Mangalam, many thanks for those details. Now, InsurTech startup InsuranceDekho has raised $150 million in a Series A funding round. This makes it the largest ever Series A round fund raised for an InsurTech player. The equity round was led by Goldman Sachs Asset Management and TVS Capital Funds, with participation from Investcorp, Avatar Ventures and Leapfrog Investments. This fundraise will fuel the company's growth plans, which also includes inorganic growth opportunities. To talk about the company's growth plans, both organic and inorganic, we are now joined by Ankit Agarwal, the co-founder and CEO of InsuranceDekho. Ankit, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Congrats on the $150 million fundraise. It's a mix of equity and debt. So can you tell us how much of it is equity and how much debt? What are you valued at post this fundraise?
So majority of the raise is in equity. We are valued at a Sunicon valuation. Given our confidentiality clauses in the contract, I'll not be able to share the valuation.
All right, so most of it is equity and you have a Sunicon valuation now. Talk to us about how you plan to use the funds that you've raised. You're also looking at some inorganic opportunities. Are you in talks with anyone currently?
So broadly, one, obviously, we're looking at acquiring a couple of assets. The conversations are in various stages of discussion. You should hear a couple of news from us on M&A in the coming weeks or months. Second, we want to build out for real Bharat. The core focus of InsuranceDekho is how do you take insurance distribution beyond the metros. And as I've always told people, within India, there are two Indias. One is the India where people like us stay, that is Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi's of the world. The second is Bharat. And our core focus at InsuranceDekho is to build for Bharat. We will continue to focus there, continue to build there. Third, we will invest in a lot of tech and product. Tech is at the core of what we are building out. So we will focus on that. There are a couple of NIs, new initiatives, as we call it, within the organization, which are Horizon 3-4 projects. And we will also focus on launching of new product categories.
Right. So your focus is on building for Bharat, but you also said you're eyeing some assets. Can you tell us what kind of assets you're eyeing?
Sure. So there are broadly two categories of assets which we are looking at. The first category is assets which give us geographical expansion capabilities. Right. So we will look at acquiring those assets which are there in geographies where we are not strong. By geography, I mean within India. We will only continue to focus on India for now. The second category which we are looking at is, can we acquire some technological skill sets which we don't have? So there are some companies which we've identified in that space, which we would look at. Last but not the least is if there's any niche product company which is available, which helps us in our Horizon 3 or 4 initiatives. That is the third category.
All right, so we'll hear some news on that front, you said, in a couple of months. But on revenues, where will you end this year? Where will your next leg of growth come from? What's profitability looking like?
So I'll start with the last question, which I think is the buzz of the season of market right now. Profitability. We at InsuranceDekho have always focused on profitability. For us, it's not a new mantra. So I'm happy to share with not only you and with the larger audience that the company should look at becoming profitable in Q4. And from a next full year purpose also is where we target full year profitability. From a revenue perspective, we are a IRDA governed distribution company. So our revenue is in line with IRDA guidelines. We will look at closing this financial year at anywhere between 1,900 to 2,000 crore in premium. And if you look at that from a APR basis, that is annual premium run rate basis, we would be anywhere between 3,300 to 3,600.
All right. So actually, you preempted my next question. So we'll see you profitable in Q4. But like you just said, you've seen a significant premium growth and aim to achieve an annualized premium run rate of 3,500 crore rupees by March 2023. And you're on track to achieve this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. You've also said that you need to go beyond urban regions. Like you said, you're building for Bharat when it comes to insurance penetration in the country. So what's the traction you're seeing in tier 2 and beyond cities? Will that be the big focus going forward? And what's the expansion plan?
That's always been the core focus for us. If you look at our business, about 80% of our business comes from tier 2 and beyond cities.
Right.
About 75% of our agents are from smaller cities. We would perhaps be the only insurtech startup which covers 98% of India's PIN codes from a consumer perspective, and we have presence in over 1,300 plus towns. So when we started off the business, we wanted to focus on a state. Then we said, let's open up important cities or towns. Now we are saying that there are 6 lakh villages in the country. In the next 3 years, can we get to 3 lakh villages? Can we ensure that 3 lakh villages have InsuranceDekho advisors? That's the core focus of the organization.
All right. And, take us through the kind of products you have on offer. What's in the pipeline? Because you also said that you're looking at some new products as well. And which products are you seeing the most amount of traction for?
So we are a specialized insurance distribution company. That is, we focus on GI, life insurance, both. I think in the insurance industry, there is a period which is called before COVID, and then there's a period after COVID. Before COVID, people used to focus on motor. After COVID, people have started focusing on health and life, which were typically push products, have now become pull products. People have started reaching out to us, started buying that. So health and life is the core focus area for the organization. About 15 to 18% of our current premium comes from health and life.
Okay.
The focus for us is in the next 2 years, we make it to a 50% contribution. Also, we believe the SME and MSME segment in the country is ripe for disruption. We are working with a couple of insurance companies to create exclusive products there. You will see us launching those products in the next financial year. Lastly, we've also seen a lot of inquiries coming from niche categories like pet insurance. We would be one of the few insurtechs in the country to have an exclusive section for pet insurance, and we'll continue to focus on such niche segments.
All right, pet insurance as well. So we're looking forward to seeing all the new products that you're going to launch. But Ankit, we're completely out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, the central government has set a target of eliminating tuberculosis from India by 2025. MyLab has partnered with Cure.ai to launch a tuberculosis screening solution to help with just that. A special conversation with both firms on the other side. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. The central government has set a target of eliminating tuberculosis from India by 2025. Now, to support the government's agenda, homegrown biotech startup MyLab has partnered with Cure.ai, a provider of AI software for medical imaging, to launch a tuberculosis screening solution. Under the partnership, MyLab's soon-to-be-launched handheld X-ray device, MyBeam, will leverage Cure.ai software QXR for early detection of tuberculosis and lung health issues. To discuss the application of these tools and what the partnership entails, I'm now joined by Hasmukh Rawal, MD and co-founder of MyLab Discovery Solutions, and Prashant Warrior, co-founder and CEO of Cure.ai. And with me, my colleague Arundhati Ramanan. Welcome to the show, Hasmukh and Prashant. Hasmukh, coming to you first. India remains the highest contributor to global TB cases, accounting for 26% of total cases and 34% of all deaths worldwide. So I want to understand from you that what's the gap in diagnosing and treating tuberculosis, and how is this partnership with Cure.ai aiming to solve that problem?
So the most important aspect in solving the TB cases is screening them effectively. until unless you do not bring people on screening platforms and then do an effective confirmatory test, you will not be able to identify them. Our PM's vision is to eradicate TB by 2025, which is 5 years early than the globe's target of 2030. And in that case, effective screening tool, effective diagnostic tool, and effective treatment and prevention tool will help. Though India ranks ahead in TB cases, I think the tools made in India, which MyLab and the innovative companies like QRAI is bringing, I think India will also lead in solving the TB for the world.
All right, Hasmukh, hi, Arundhati here. Now, with this partnership, you'll be launching MyBeam, a portable X-ray device. How does it help you diagnose infectious diseases like TB, especially in its early stages, and with what kind of accuracy? Can you tell us how it will help expand the clinical coverage?
So the first tool in order to detect or screen people for TB is knowing whether there is a chest congestion, whether there is a chance, because the active TB resides in your lung. So a good X-ray and a good radiology report of that X-ray is very, very critical in order to know this. Now, for the program to work, in order to screen effectively, it is possible either you bring people to a center where there is an effective TB screening tool for X-ray and the whole system, or you can also build it otherwise where you can decentralize the screening by building a handheld X-ray which you can go in the field. Most of the villagers where they are working, for them it is not possible many times where they can go to a central laboratory or a central location where the testing can happen, because for them the daily daily wages are important. So reaching to all these villages, making that decentralized and effective accessible tool with a handheld X-ray is very, very critical. The second part is how you report and interpret at the report. And if you can automate this by AI tool processing, and luckily QRAI has done the hard work over a period of last years where they got the WHO clearance as well, in order to effectively take a look at the report and tell which is the suspected case and which can be further done by a screening, a confirmatory test. So building this tool where you can go with a handheld X-ray, it should. So what we have built, MyBeam is around 2 kg platform where you can go in the field, take the X-ray and just upload the report with the AI interpretation so that you definitely know which of these people can be subjected for the further test. So the tool was built by our partner company Lipomic, where we acquired the technology and started working with them.
All right, now Prashant, coming to you, you're providing your AI software QXR to MyLabs. So what's the technology all about, and how do you ensure that the quality of data used in your AI ML models is optimal? How does it help in reducing the turnaround time of getting the test results? And, other than tuberculosis, where else can this, tool be applicable?
Thank you for having me here. I'm co-founder and CEO of Cure.ai, and we build AI solutions to interpret radiology images. So it includes X-rays, CTs, ultrasounds. And the solution we're talking about today is the interpretation of chest X-rays for tuberculosis. And this technology has been trained on 5 million plus X-rays. So it's trained on a lot of data and from various parts of the world. It has been validated by some of the top organizations, including WHO, FIND, Stop TB Partnership, McGill University. So it's been validated, evaluated. And what we do is, you asked about turnaround time, right? What we do is that you are able to read an X-ray. So it takes about 4 to 5 days to get an X-ray read in the field through a radiologist. And we are able to do that within a minute. So in fact, within 10 seconds. So X-ray gets taken and within 10 seconds, we are able to interpret that and tell you whether it's TB or not. And as per the guidelines released by WHO in 2021, X-ray
All right, Prashant, we seem to have you on a bad line there. Let's try and connect you again. I'm going to bring Hasmukh back into the conversation. Hasmukh, can you take us through some of the partnerships that you forged to deploy these devices? How many such machines will you be initially deploying, and where?
So the most important part is manufacturing it in India, manufacturing at a cost, and make sure that it is accessible and affordable to all. So our first focus is to build a cost-effective handheld X-ray which can be carried by even an ASHA worker if required in the field. Very easy to operate. Automation, a lot of automation and subjective error free. Just like the one COVID self we launched, we wanted to make sure that it becomes mistake proof for all. So similar lines, the focus was to build a very effective tool. Right now, our focus is to scale at a cost. Second would be to forge right partnership, and if possible to make sure that whether it is through CSR activity or through government public-private partnership, we effectively deploy it at least every district. One more approach which we are trying is to build it on a mobile van, mobile vehicle, so that it can be carried to every district. It can be in every district, and you can just go to the villages, do the camp, get the data, and if you suspect a patient, to collect the sputum as well, which can be run on our other platform. Along with handheld X-ray, we have also launched in partnership with Serum a latent TB test, which is a next generation latency detection for TB, which is a hidden TB. And very recently, we also got a national TB program approval for TB and TB drug resistance as well. So our focus is to build effective end-to-end screening, detect, treat, and prevent strategy in order to help the government and help the globe to eradicate TB.
Now that we have Prashant back on the line, Prashant, I wanted to understand from you that you're providing your AI software. The most commonly used diagnostic tool for tuberculosis has been skin test. The blood tests are becoming commonplace now. So I wanted to understand that, how is Cure AI's lung health suite of products complementing the existing screening and diagnostic solutions?
No, so currently the WHO protocol calls for an X-ray followed by an interpretation, which is what we provide. We provide an interpretation to the chest X-ray, and WHO also recommended the use of these kinds of technologies, especially our technology, as an alternative to a human reader. So we can interpret the X-ray, and we can interpret that in a few seconds, and we can basically make sure that that process of TB screening is much faster. And so the process is X-ray gets taken, it is interpreted by Cure, and then followed by a microbiological test, a CBNAT test, right? So that is the protocol, and we are part of that protocol by interpreting the X-ray.
All right, so that's part of your protocol. Can you tell us, Prashant, what are the challenges faced by medical practitioners in adopting and leveraging AI in India? How are you working with relevant stakeholders in making this adoption seamless?
No, so I think what we found is that India is very open to adopting AI. When we started building Cure, we thought that the market might be in the US or UK and other geographies. But the reality is, India, we are seeing massive adoption. TB programs are adopting it across the country. We work with many TB programs across the country. We work with Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, BMC. So there is, a lot of adoption, and the primary challenge that India faces is that it takes a lot of time to get an X-ray read, and you don't have enough readers in the country, you don't have enough radiologists in the country, and especially for a radiologist, the X-ray interpretation is the lowest in the pipe, right? You basically got MRIs and CTs and so on, right? And you don't necessarily want to interpret X-rays, and that is where we come in by automating that interpretation. We find that this is something that is massively adopted. We've crossed, we've processed more than 1.5 to 2 million X-rays in the last 3 years in the country, in India. So this number is scaling up. We are in about 250 hospitals across the country. So we've seen massive, since the pandemic started, I would say about that time, right? From the time the pandemic started, we have seen a massive adoption across the country in the usage of our technology.
All right, so massive adoption there in the use of your technology. Hasmukh, Prashant, we're completely out of time, but thank you so much for joining us on Startup Street today.
Thank you.
With that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.
When our big boss was MD,